Hey, how's it going everyone? My name is True Wonder Dog, and I'm here today to discuss which Android characters are the best of the best. So we have 4 androids in total now with the recent addition of Android 17, so I thought it could be fun to discuss which androids I think are the best. Now keep in mind, all of these characters are good in my opinion. It's just that some androids are better than others. So let's go ahead and start off with the android that I think is the weakest, and it breaks my heart to say this. Even though once again I do think this character is very useful, I have to say the weakest of the androids is Android 18. And I'm gonna go ahead and justify that statement, don't you worry. Now Android 18 is a very good point character, right? She's fantastic, she even has an extra assist, so technically you have 3 different assists on your team with Android 18. So she's a very good offensive character. And to make her offense even better, she also has the command grab mix-up as well, which got buffed in the recent patch. She can now go straight into her level 1 super after her light command grab. You no longer have to land the medium, which is good because the medium command grab was a bit slower. So it's nice that Android 18 got that little buff. Now sadly, even with all those great qualities, there are certain areas that Android 18 is lacking, which is why I do consider her the weakest of the androids. For starters, her damage isn't really that great. It's not terrible either, but her damage, especially solo, just isn't anything to write home about. And honestly, even with the proper assist, you still need the corner to get her really damaging combos. And even her crazy corner combos don't get that much damage compared to other characters on the roster. So even though she does have some really good mix-up tools and some good offense as well, she just isn't able to make it hurt like other characters on the roster. And sadly, Android 18 has one more big weakness as well. There always comes a time when you want to tag out your point character after they've taken a ton of damage, which means you still want their assist to be useful when you call in your secondary character. And while Android 18's assist does have its uses, it's only good in one area, and that's absorbing the opponent's attack, whether it be for escaping pressure or simply baiting out your opponent's attacks. And that's not a bad assist at all, but the problem is there are plenty of assists that do the same thing while also being good for extending combos. So for example, if you had Adult Gohan on your team as a point character and you switched him out, his assist is not only great for defense, but it's also good for extending combos as well. So it does both jobs at the same time, whereas Android 18's is purely defensive. So her one-sided assist combined with her lower than average damage is why I think she's the weakest of the androids. Now once again, she's still a good character. I would argue most characters on the roster are. But when it comes to the rest of the android family, sadly she is at the bottom in my opinion. So then who's the third best character? Who's the android taking home that bronze medal? Well, once again, it hurts me to say this, but I think the third best android is my bubblegum queen, Android 21. Anyone who's been on my channel before knows that I love this character to death, mainly because I like her character design, but her playstyle's pretty fun too. She has pretty good range on most of her normals, although her crouching medium did get nerfed, so it no longer reaches at full range, which is a problem. And I honestly do think she could have been higher on this list if they hadn't taken that away from her, but the fact that she no longer has that max range hit confirm is a pretty big deal. She has other routes, but it costs meter now, but even so that was a pretty big nerf to her character. Although even with that weakness, Android 21 does still have one big major strength, and that's her damage. If we even look at how much damage this Vanish combo did, it was almost 50% damage on the opponent's health. And honestly, I do think Android 21's combo damage is her biggest strength at this point. Especially if you have the opponent cornered, you can just do some crazy stuff here. And once again, it's not hard to do. Now, herein lies the problem. Even though her range is still very good and her damage has always been amazing and that hasn't changed a bit, she still has this one huge glaring weakness, and that's her ability to apply pressure. So in the corner, I do have some options of what I can do to the opponent, so if I put them to the ground here and in my combo, I can go for a throw mix-up, and if I think they're going to be expecting the throw, I can jump and do a light attack instead, and I can get a counter hit. But it's still a 50-50 mix-up, and the opponent has an equal chance of escaping. And in fact, they could tech roll forward instead, and they're almost guaranteed to escape if I'm not looking out for that, and most of the time you're not going to be. So even though Android 21 has some of the highest damage in the business, and her range isn't bad, it did get nerfed a little bit, and she still doesn't have very many reliable ways to pressure the opponent, and even in the corner they can escape if they know the right techniques. And that is why I sadly have to say that Android 21 gets the bronze medal when it comes to the androids. But I'm sure a lot of you were expecting that, especially if you've played these characters before. So now comes the real big question. Who's the better character overall, Android 17 or Android 16? And honestly, I went back and forth on this a lot myself. I couldn't quite agree on who I thought was the best either, especially since Android 17 is so new. So I did my best to look online and see what other players thought, just to get as much info on both characters as I could. And once again, please keep in mind this is just my opinion, but I think the silver medal of the androids goes to Android 17. And I know it's a really big shocker to a lot of you. I bet a lot of people are on the hype train and think that Android 17 is the next big thing and he's just crazy good and no one's going to be standing in his way, everyone's going to be playing him at tournaments. But let me go ahead and justify my reasoning here. Now, most players are excited about Android 17 for two main reasons. The first is his mix-up factor, and the second is his damage. So let's go ahead and talk about his mix-ups first. Excel Drive and Excel Finisher are both fantastic mix-up tools. You can actually decide what order they happen in, which means you have an inherent mix-up right out of the gate. You can also cancel into his barrier, or spend some meter to do barrier into counter. So he has a lot of creative stuff he can do here. Oh, he can also do power blitz as well. There's a lot of stuff he can do here to be sure. Not to mention they combo into themselves as well, so I could do Finishing Drive instead, and if I land that, I can then cancel into Excel Drive for a pretty decent combo. However, there's a couple of issues here. First off, even if I do manage to mix up the opponent correctly, all the damage that comes after these Rekkas is severely reduced. So unless I have the proper assist to extend my combo, I'm not going to get very much damage, especially if I'm not in the corner. So while he does have that mix-up factor, he suffers from the same problem that Android 18 does. And on top of that, Android 17's pressure isn't quite as impressive as it initially seems. So I'm going to have the AI do some of the mix-ups on me, and I'm going to show you how to beat them. You see, Android 17's mix-ups have two main threats, the overhead and the low, both of which lead to a full combo, and the opponent can choose the order in which they do them. So you have to be on your guard and know what to look out for. And since the low is practically instant and therefore impossible to respond to, once you see Android 17 start his Excel Drive or his Finishing Drive, you want to start blocking low right away and then wait for the overhead, if it ever comes, because once again the opponent could cancel into his barrier or any other number of things. So for now you just want to crouch block in case that low comes out early. And then if you do see Android 17 leave the ground and come in your direction, you want it down heavy on reaction. This will beat out both the overhead and the fake overhead, which could lead to an empty jump low. And of course there are different things the opponent could do when adapting to this. They could go for the barrier to bait out your down heavy, but once again, as long as you wait to react to the overhead, that's not going to be much of a problem. So the only other option they have at this point is to hop off the wall. And if they do go for that option, you have several different ways to respond. If they're crazy enough to not call in an assist, you could just down heavy to beat most of their options, because at that point all they have is the projectile, which doesn't lead to very much damage even if they vanish to extend the combo. However, if the opponent's smart, they will lock you down with an assist to make sure they can come in. But even in that situation, the only option they have is an overhead, since an empty jump low is actually impossible after the wall bounce. So even though Android 17's offense seems insane at first, he really only has one thing to watch out for, and that's the overhead, since everything else can be blocked while crouching and the wall bounce gives you enough time to react. Now do understand that a strong Android 17 player is likely going to tag in the assists at weird moments to make it much harder to see when he's going for the overhead or the low, so it's not going to always be easy to escape the pressure from this guy. But the reality is that his mix-ups aren't that hard to deal with once you know to be patient and watch for the overhead. And actually, Android 17 has one more glaring weakness in my opinion. His supers really aren't the best, so his grounded level 1 is a cinematic level 1, which means if you tag cancel into it, you get a lot less damage than you normally would. Not to mention it switches sides as well, so you give up the corner advantage. Now, that might not seem like a big deal because you could just choose to do his air level 1 instead. Now, here's the problem with that. 1, it's also a cinematic super, which means your tag supers won't do as much damage as they normally would with other characters. And even his level 3 super isn't the best either. Now in the corner it's just fine, he can still go for empty jump lows or instant dash overheads. However, from mid-screen he can't really get very much after it, if anything at all. He has to run all the way in on the opponent, and at that point he can maybe go for some lows, or he can call in an assist and start his offense once again. But from mid-screen, he definitely doesn't have the pressure options that other characters get after their level 3s. Whereas the number 1 Android character definitely does, and he is still the king in my opinion, our bird-loving friend Android 16. Despite being nerfed in more ways than one, Android 16 is a welcomed addition to pretty much any team. Since this guy's assist is honestly very useful, so let's switch him out real quick. So this assist is great for extending block strings, and it's also great for extending combos as well. So it's got very good application. It's a very standard but very useful assist, and it comes out very quickly too. So it's very good to throw out in a pinch. It's just a very useful assist, nothing bad about it. And once you switch to him, he basically has all the advantages of other androids on this list. So for starters, his mix-up game is still fantastic. He has a low hitting crouching light, so he can do empty jump lows just like other characters. He can go for an empty jump low, or he can go for an overhead. He has that option. And just like Android 18, he also has the command grab as well, and it can snag opponents out of the sky. So just like Android 21, he can snag players out of the air. Plus he has the added bonus of really good range on his command grabs, and they combo into themselves without having to spend bar on a vanish. And the damage is still pretty dang good as well. So even though Android 16 might not have the flashy mix-ups that Android 17 has, his command grab combined with his low hitting crouching light is more than enough to get the job done. And Android 16 also doesn't suffer from a distance either. He has decent projectiles that are great for hitting the opponent, and he can hit confirm with the vanish. And once he gets that vanish, he can do the command grab and get some pretty good pressure options afterwards. And of course, he still has the infamous armor. Before we had Broly, Android 16 was the only character that armor was really a big issue with, as far as if you're fighting him. You really had to worry about this standing heavy attack because it beat a ton of stuff, and it still honestly does. It's a fantastic way from getting in, it's got pretty fantastic range on it, and it leads to a full combo if it hits. So if you're fighting Android 16 and he's anywhere within this range, you really don't want to press any buttons, which is a problem because he could just go for his command grab instead. So if you're trying to be patient and block, he still has plenty of ways to open you up. He's honestly just a very scary character to fight against. And to top it all off, his level 3 super doesn't have any of the weaknesses that Android 17's has. It leaves the opponent very close, and it's also an unblockable command grab as well. So not only does it guarantee some great mix-ups on your opponent's wake up, but the super itself is also a mix-up as well. So even after all the nerfs, Android 16 is still, in my opinion, the best Android on the roster. Thanks for watching everyone, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, then please leave a like down below. It really does help my channel out a lot. And while you're down there, go ahead and post a comment too. What does your Android tier list look like? And if you haven't already, please subscribe and hit the bell. That way you never miss a future video. Make sure to come back next time, and as always, stay underdogs.